nothing else I've looked into makes me feel the way that this did in high ticket sales, man. Nothing else made me feel like I was in the right place the way this did. So it is like a secret society club, man. In a good way, though. It's producing real results for people. It's really dependent on how fast you work and how hard you work. But it's doable. It's easily doable. Take it from me. But you do have to have a mindset that you can do it first.
All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome back to another episode of the Remote Closing Academy podcast. And today's guest, I had a really great time talking to this guy, and I think his story really just fully embodies the journey of a remote closer. He came from traditional sales within like the car industry, and he didn't really like the way that made him feel and some of the things they made him do. So he was like, okay, I need to find a new opportunity, and that's how he found remote closing. But it didn't come without the roadblocks. There was multiple offers that fell through, some things that he really couldn't control that were just getting in his way. But nonetheless, he was able to prevail, and we'll kind of show what the end result of all that was. So with all that being said, make sure to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. Before we jump too deep into it, man, Cedric, welcome to the podcast. How's the week?
Hey man, good to be here. I'm excited. The week's been pretty good so far. I mean, it's only Monday, so I got a full week.
Monday. Oh, yeah, that's right. usually record these on Wednesday or Thursday, so I'm usually like kind of primed with a couple days of. So, but yeah, it's Monday. Happy Monday. We're gonna hit this week strong.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, dude, before we jump too deep into some of the stuff through the multiple offers and all that kind of stuff, I mean, for anyone that's listened and you've listened to some of the podcasts, we like to just take a couple steps back. Interesting with you though, you've been in the sales world for a good amount of time. So I want to go even before that, like before the 9 years of being in sales. What were you doing like before that, and then what were some of the things that like led you into jumping into sales in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty interesting story, actually. So it was during college, man. I was going to Bloomington, Indiana, Indiana University. I wasn't doing nothing for money, really. I was working part-time at Walmart while I went to school. And it was a random day at school, man. And these guys came up to the school. One dude that I'll never forget him, he's still a mentor for me to this day. His name's Darren Gibson. Pulled up in a Lamborghini, man. Only 2 years older than me, and he was attending the school at the time, getting ready to drop out. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Man. So he's like, I do sales full time. He showed me the ropes of what he was doing, and he's like, financial freedom, sales is the way to go, man. So I kind of followed suit, man. I kind of got out of college, man. I'm like, sales is what I want to do. After he showed me the ropes of it, so kind of history from there.
So when it was sales, what was he selling? I think I might have missed that.
So at the time, he was doing network marketing for an energy-based company, energy products and stuff like that. And the main target and focus was college kids. So it was like-minded peers. We'd all get together, do events at like high-class hotels and stuff, and everybody pull up in their nice Lamborghinis and Ferraris and stuff like that. Yeah. I'm like, oh man, I need to get in on this. I need to get in on this because they're making it happen at the same age as us. So I was like, yes, this is it.
Yeah. So did you how long were you doing that, and then you decided to like drop out after a certain amount of time? Like what was that time frame in between there?
So I was doing that for, I'd say about 4 months at the time. And I got pushed towards the military. So I ended up joining the military, National Guard. Best years of my life that I spent in it. I loved it every single second. Nice. But I didn't stop doing sales at that point. So I was still studying the game while I was in the military. I took all my notebooks with me. Watching videos whenever we had our phones, because they always took our phones away. I was watching videos, studying the material, man, so that when I got back from basic and AIT, I was ready to hop back in the game.
Mm-hmm. How long were you in the military?
I was in the military for 2.5 years. Got out in a loophole way because honestly, I loved the training aspect of it. But when I got back to my duty station, everything changed. So they kind of offered me a way out, and I took it. I ain't gonna lie to you, I took it because
Yeah.
it just wasn't the route for me anymore at that time. And then I was still sales oriented in my mind. I'm
Hmm.
like, dude, I need to make this happen over here.
Yeah. Well, dude, I think a really, maybe something that I feel like kind of led to that is, anyone that I've talked to that's in like the entrepreneurial like sales space, it takes a certain amount of patience to be able to like really see the successes that you're looking for,
Mhm.
and for you to kind of be in that situation where you literally like all you really could do for 2.5 years was study, and that was kind of like your outlet of like just getting to the sales stuff. So for most people, if they look at you like, or if you say like, oh, I need to study for something for 2.5 years before you can even implement, like a lot of people aren't going to do that, right? How many people can you say, hey, like go to the gym for the next 2.5 years, but you're not going to see results until year 2.5? It's like
No, that's a
it's
good
kind of a
analogy.
hard bargain, yeah. So okay, cool. So you what was your, after you're in the military, you get out of that, and then now you're like on fire, like, hey, I have 2.5 years of experience of sales I want to jump into. What was like the next opportunity?
So the next one, actually, during the 2 years I was in it, I was doing sales gigs on the side. So I wasn't full
Nice.
timing anything because the military still took up most of my time. So at that time, I was doing door to door, business to business. Sold a couple of those Kirby vacuums. Everybody know what they are. Don't act like you
You
don't.
have to. Did you do any like Cutco or anything like
Yeah,
that?
my brother did that, and he got me into that for a
Nice.
little. I did some
You have
Cutco,
to.
man. I did some Cutco, yes.
Yeah.
And then after that, after I got out the military, I reconnected with Darren Gibson, who introduced me to sales in general. Reconnected with him,
Hmm.
worked with the company that he was working with for a while, and then I realized that there's a direction in sales that I gotta take. I gotta take my own direction because sales is a broad field, and there's there's many ways to do it. So I realized I got to figure out what my niche is in the field itself. So we kind of parted ways there. And I started exploring more options and what you can do in the field itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess when was it until you found like that the next opportunity, and what was the one that like kind of brought you through the next, I'll say, I guess probably next couple of years then, right?
So I ended up building my own business, which I ended up selling to my brother 2 years ago. It was a landscaping and lawn care business. Built that up to about 35 clients. So that was bringing in about 5 to 6K a month. Um, but the way I sold it, I did door to door with that. I literally sold the services door to door and built it up to 35. And right after that, that's when I got into car sales. And I sold the business to my brother.
Okay, cool. So what was the experience with car sales, and like how long did you do that? Like what were you, I guess, what was like the income potential there? Maybe some of the struggles, some of the, the good parts of it.
Yeah. So I did car sales a year and a half. Literally just stopped in December of last year. It was the best thing for me at the time. Honestly, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way at the time. Lucrative. Literally, I made 150K last year, and the entire year and a half I was there, I did about 200K. Uh, Gross. So I made great income while I was there. But it was a toxic environment, man. And they might watch this.
Yeah.
They gonna be mad at me. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, it's the truth though. It's a little toxic. And not only
Yeah.
that,
Well, it's not, I feel like it's not even like, I mean, you might be talking about specific experiences and like in that place specifically, but I mean, we literally on every podcast, we make the example of, the used car salesman, how it gets like that kind of negative connotation. So, but no, I think the interesting thing is like anyone that I've talked to that's had like the previous experience of like whether it's car sales or insurance or real estate or solar, right? A lot of times like those people do like, I think why they see a lot of success within remote closing is because they learn like that first, and then they look at remote closing. It's like, oh, I don't have to be sleazy. I don't have to go into an office for 10 hours a day. And it's like you kind of you see all the negative parts of it, and then it just like it's almost like the easy button when you jump into the remote side.
that was easy.
So okay, so what were some of your experiences like there, and like some of the good, some of the bad, some of the ugly?
Honestly, and I tell this in all my mock calls. If anybody's done a mock call with me, you know this. It was the hours, man. The hours were ridiculous. I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
an outside life anymore. Working there,
Mm.
all the toxicity that was there, I could have dealt with that on a long term
Yeah.
basis, but the hours. So I got a daughter as well. She's 2. She'll be 3 next week, and I
Nice.
miss so much, man. I miss so much time with her.
Mm.
Just having to have her away with other people all the time. She's starting not to know me anymore, and and I could feel that, and it was really hurting on me. My boss, he literally said as I was preparing to leave, he was like, "Dude, this is like breaking up with your girlfriend because you think she's cheating. Like you made great income while you were here. Why would you leave?" I'm like, man, it's not
Mm.
just about the income. I got
Yeah.
an outside life too, so I got to keep searching for that thing that's it for me. Um, I really had great success while I was there. Stayed in the top 1% the entire time I was there. And I had great success because I wasn't a sleazy car salesman. I was like
Mm-hmm.
very honest. Like I could literally hit up any of my previous customers right now. They all had great experiences with me. I probably had one or two out of the like 300 that I've worked with that didn't like me because I mean, who don't like me, man? I thought I was pretty good. Thought I was a pretty good guy,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Right.
but I love helping people. That's what I've gained over the 9 years I've been doing this sales thing. That's the main thing I love about sales, man. You really are getting in depth with people directly, like person to person, man. I love that, and I just want to. My original goal was to get into housing and start selling houses after cars. In a
Mm.
way, I kind of still achieved that with the offer I'm on. But just helping people, man. That is the big thing for me, and that's why I achieved the success that I achieved there.
Mm-hmm. Dude, that's really huge, and I want to go back to the, what you were saying about, having a family and a daughter and stuff, because I'm in the same spot. Like back in, I have three little ones now, so we have going to be coming on 4, coming on 3, coming on 2, so 4, 3, 3, 2, and so yeah, a lot has happened over the past 4 years, and a big transition for me was, I had my own business and transitioning, and I was just spending a lot of time in doing that. And back to what you said of your boss is like, oh, you're making a lot of money, but like, what's 200, $300,000 a year when you can't even enjoy that,
Right?
right? If
Oh
the
man.
the only reason to like that you're making money is to then like pay bills, but then like not really get to enjoy, like what's the point? Like I'd much rather make significantly less, but be able to spend more time with and not miss those moments. You know what I mean? Because you only have those moments once, and it's I think about it like a good amount of times is seeing my all my little ones. Like I work from home, I wake them up every single morning. I put them to sleep every single night, and I can't even imagine like living in a world where I had to go to like an office every morning and like not see them wake up, or get home late to where like I can't put them to sleep. So I think that's just a huge part. And anyone that's listening, like it probably in a very similar situation, it's like there's so much more that's out there for people if you really like fully understand, like, okay, here are my skill sets, and then this is the industry that could then like provide me the lifestyle that I'm looking for, like is huge once that realization's made. And I'm glad that made that realization of like there's so much more that I can do.
Absolutely.
Um, okay, so you leave the car dealership.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming at that point is when you kind of jump more into like the high ticket stuff online, like because you were doing it before, like Remote Closing Academy. So what was like kind of that pocket between the two?
Yeah, so it probably happened in May of last year. I realized that's when I started to kind of realize I need to look for something else.
Hmm.
But I didn't want to just leave. Obviously, I made great income, and to just go from that to zero wouldn't be smart, right? So it
Yeah.
took me some time, and I just been hunting and hunting and hunting. And then in November of last year, I while I was searching on Indeed, I came across Closers.io, Closers.io. They had an ad on Indeed, and just the sound of it, man, it sounded amazing. it sounded like what I was looking for, and something like fluttered in my heart while I was reading. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is it right here. This is the thing that I've been looking
Hmm.
for. Sent my resume in, reached out to them. They got back with me. It was Jackson Peacock specifically. He got back to me, set up an interview with me. Actually, I had to cancel the first interview because I didn't realize you had to be in like a professional setting. I was in my car.
Mm.
I like ran out
Oh
of
man.
I ran out of work. And I'm like, oh man, I got
lesson
to do
lesson number one to anyone's listening: if you come to one of our interviews, don't do it in the car because
yeah,
we'll reschedule
yeah.
with you.
It was a learning
Do it in
experience.
like yeah, no, and that's the thing too, is like if you wouldn't have done that, you wouldn't have known like, okay, like this is how it goes. And like now people that are listening to this that are thinking of like, oh, I'm gonna like have this car with RC or call with RCA or closers.io.
Yeah, no.
Step one, don't show up in the car. Come in like a setup. Doesn't have to be anything like this. This is kind of overkill, and I'm the video guy, so I kind of have to have this. But good lighting, not a ton of music in the back or music, sound, that kind of stuff. Okay, so you have the conversation, you make it to the actual interview. Then what
Yes,
happened?
made it to the actual interview. It was in this house I'm in right now, my house, but it was in a different spot, and it was still not perfect. He was still like, okay, that
Okay.
background need a little work on the background, but you're dressed nice, you look good, so okay, let's proceed. And yeah, man, I kind of just went over my history with him, and he thought it was perfect, man. He thought it was perfect for it. So I didn't have to go through the RCA pro. I didn't even know what RCA was. Did never heard of it in my
Hmm.
life. And then a week later, I got reached out to by him and Lucas Fisher for an opportunity as a closer for a company that traded baseball cards, which it was
Yeah.
interesting. I'm like, dude, you can make 14K minimum trading baseball cards. Like what? Okay. I'm like, yeah,
Which is actually really like it's interesting because we were talking about it before, and I was kind of intrigued because I know a guy that like has that type of offer. But like for those of you who are listening that are thinking like like what types of offers are out there, and like is mine too niche? No, like there's offers of people that again are selling and teaching a course on how to flip baseball cards. So anything that you can think of, there's probably someone out there that has like some sort of course or program that's selling it. So I think it's pretty cool. So you figured out. So yeah, what happened with that one? Because you said it didn't like necessarily work out, right?
yeah. So they sent the offer. They connected me with the owners of the business. It took the owners a week to reach back out to me, and that's when they told me actually they would love to have me, but they want to first focus on their marketing team before they brought a closer in to a unsubstantiated position. Is kind of what they said. So that went backwards just like that, man. I'm like, oh man, I was so excited. I got to the point meeting the owners specifically, talking to them, and just for them to say they not ready for a closer actually. So
Yeah.
that didn't work out, and I let Jackson know. I sent Jackson the messages. He's like, okay, I'll find you another opportunity. Didn't hear from Jackson for a month, for a whole month. I'm still at the car dealership, man. Just Ben had one foot out the door, but can't take the other foot out either because I'm still waiting to hear
Yeah.
something. So I ended up just one night, man, just on my phone. It's like 1 in the morning, looking at Jackson's stuff. I'm like, dude, this nothing else I've looked into makes me feel the way that this did. And high ticket sales, man. Nothing else made me feel like I was in the right place the way this did. So I'm just
Mm.
exploring stuff and really trying to just learn about the industry. And then that's when I came across RCA, and I'm like, okay, this, Jackson's literally connected to this. So wait a minute, what am I missing here? I'm like, all right, so let me book a call, just see what happens. And then
Yeah.
that's when I got on the phone with my man Jacob Combs a week later. Uh, Jacob, man, love that guy. Love that guy. Love that guy. But literally, I let him know the situation. Like, hey, I was already in doing things with some other people in your company. He's like, oh, that's called the pipeline, man. You're already in the pipeline. Good stuff. I'm like, okay. So how do I
Hmm.
get back in it and get something new? I need another opportunity. I need it quick and I need it fast, man. I'm leaving the car dealership. I need something to happen right away. I cannot waste any time. He's like, you know what? This is what I can do
Mm-hmm.
for you. I can get Jackson on a call. I'll make sure that he gets something moving for you again, or you can go through our training program, and we'll put you into the pipeline ourselves and get you even more opportunities. I'm like, huh, sounds interesting, but I don't know, man.
Yeah.
You know, I had this free offer. I didn't have to pay anything to get into that. You
Exactly.
know, so well, now I got to pay for something. I'm like, oh man. And actually, at this time, I already had left the car dealership. Once I got on the call with
Mm,
Jacob, I was already gone. So I had money saved up, and I had it all budgeted out for the few months so that I can transition to something. And I let Jacob know my full situation. He's like, "Look, I'm gonna work with you on this because I already know you're gonna kill this thing, man. I already know it. We just got to
mm.
get you in it." I'm like, you know what? Nothing makes me feel like high ticket sales makes me feel. Let's do this, man. So we hop in from there,
Mhm.
man, and rest kind of history.
Dude, I love it. So what happened after? So you jump into it, or actually, let me one little step back. What made you make the decision to leave the car deal? I know like high level, right? You wanted a better opportunity, but what was like that final straw between like, okay, I'm leaving the car dealership. I'm putting together a budget. Like I'm putting together a plan. This is what I can do. Like what was like that last straw? I guess that made you leave.
Oh man, well the straw started like back in March. Back in March, I was like, dude, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
But May put the
Yeah.
I say May, I had two straws left. I took another straw out in May, and then November when this whole thing happened, I was checked out, man. I was done. I wasn't. I was doing just enough to make a little bit more money, but I really wasn't trying anymore. I was finished. I was ready for the next
Mm,
thing. A couple other people had left at the time. So I had guaranteed job opportunities at other jobs, but I'm like, nothing sounds like this. This is the thing right here. So I was
mm,
checked out in November, man. And then in December,
mm,
I'm like, I'm not going into the new year. Still selling cars. I'm just not doing it. So I definitely made
mm.
sure I was out before the new year hit.
Yeah. What do you think for you were like the motivating factors behind like, and I know I'm focusing a lot on like this one part of it, but like the motivating factors for you to make the decision, because I think there's a lot of people, I know there's a lot of people that are in that kind of half in half out situation
Hmm.
where they know that they're destined for more and they know they want a different opportunity, but the security of being in that job obviously keeps them there.
Hmm.
And I think that like that percentage of people that make the decision to then make the jump are obviously the ones that like have like that really deep like entrepreneurial bug of like they know this is what sets me apart, like this makes me the 1% and not the 99.
Yeah.
So what were like the motivations for you and like just the kind of the conversations that you had with yourself to help you make that decision?
Yeah, so one of my driving forces, man, is my daughter for sure. That's why day in day out for 12-hour days, man, I show up at the car dealership ready to do work, man, do whatever it took. Um, I took my last foot out of the door for the car dealership in December when I came across the RCA thing where they said, yeah, dude, you can work
Mm,
from home or remotely in general. It don't You can work from anywhere as long as you kind of got some type of professional looking setting. Um, and
mm,
you can make the same type of income I was making at the car dealership. So my biggest thing, I had two criteria. I had to be able to make the same type of income that I achieved there,
mm,
but I had to get time back. So I needed something that could do both of those things, and I couldn't find anything. But except this, this was the only thing. So
mm.
that was just an extra cherry on top because I just the sound of it
Yeah.
in general, I loved it. Um, I never did sales over Zoom or over the phone. Well, I've done over the phone, but I've never done it over like Zoom and stuff. So
Yeah.
a little new there, but sales in general, that's where I'm comfortable. That's what I know I can do, and it's called high ticket sales. So sales is
Yeah.
in the name. I'm like, yep, this is my field. Then this is what I need to do. Um, but I
So
think, yeah,
I'm gonna go one step deeper if that's okay.
yeah, yeah.
So I think because all that's because like the sales stuff, you got to chunk down a little bit more. But so okay, so I get all that part, right? You're like, okay, I know this opportunity is gonna be great. I guess what was, because you have two people again. It's like some people like kind of know that they know that, okay, this is a great opportunity, and this I could in theory make make more money.
Mhm.
But what about, I guess, about RCA made you like fully trust in the process and trust that we were the thing to help you get out of that, in that limbo period you were?
I would say people, seeing the people that have achieved it already. It's just like at the car dealership. You got 20 salespeople and you only got two making over six figures, and the rest are doing okay. They're just doing all right. It's just like that, man. I look at everybody in the industry. I always want to be one of the best. I always want to be one of the best. So I'm looking at people that have done it, like Jacob, for instance. I'm glad he was one that I got on a call with. Just looking at what he's achieved, and he even went over. He shared his numbers with me, man. He told me everything. I'm like, dude, yeah. I'm like, this sounds good, man. And like, you're just like me. I'm just like you. I want to do this because I see you can do it. There's no reason I can't do it then, right? And that's my thing. As long as I can see somebody else that has been able to do it, I know what I can do as well. So if they can do it,
Yeah.
I can do it too. And I refuse to accept otherwise, man. That's my mentality. I don't like to lose.
Yeah, dude. Dude, that is such a good, like, that's such a good mindset to have. Because I'm like, I think like inherently, like, if you're a salesperson, you have to have like that competitive nature within you. Like, great example is with this channel. About a year ago, remote closing was a topic that really no one was like talking about. Like, to get nerdy with it, there was like 800 people searching a month on Google, like remote closing. Wow. Now there's over like almost 10,000 people a month searching for remote closing. And with that, excuse me, and with that comes a lot of other people making content. So I almost use like other people making content as my drive of like, all right, I'm not playing around. We're putting out like 5 videos out a week. I don't even care. Like, we're putting out more volume than anyone. So it's and I think that's just a driving force for a lot of like salespeople. By the way, Cedric's been talking a lot about Jacob Combs. He was episode either 10 or 11, I believe, of the podcast. So definitely, for those of you who listen, check that out, and you'll hear we go over his numbers specifically in there too, and it'll show you really what's possible. So. All right. So in this position, you jumped into RCA. What were some of the things, like maybe some of your like first wins or first experiences or things that you liked based on like, the 9 previous years that you'd been in the sales space?
Yeah. So hopping in, got connected with my coach, Meredith Rawlings. Love her too. Amazing. She's super strict though, but no, I love her though.
Probably it's in a good way though.
Oh yeah, definitely in a good way. Definitely in a good way.
Kicks you in the butt a couple times.
A lot of times. No, I believe it or not, in one of my first experiences, I say it was our first meeting after I did about like 10, 15 mock calls. Man, she told me I wasn't very good. I was all over the place. I'm like, that shocked me. I'm like, oh man.
She had to bring you down a couple of pegs.
Man,
like, I've been in sales for 9 years. I've been crushing it, and then the first 10, it's like, yo, you gotta step up your
game. Exactly. That hurt, man. That hurt me hard, and I even had to take a few hours. I'm like, God, dang, no matter how good you are at something,
for the day.
For real, no matter how good you are at something, you always have that voice in the back of your head, like, you can't do this, no matter how good. And that voice tried to come up, man. I'm like, oh man, maybe I can't do it today. She's saying, because I expected to just rock out and be good at it, and I had to be humbled. I'm glad she. Look, Jacob picked the right coach for me. That's all I'll say. He picked the right coach because she did that. So knocked out another. She wanted me to get to 25. I got to like 35 by the time we met again. And at that point, obviously, like she likes to preach, there's no such thing as a perfect sales call. So there was always something I could fix. But she said, "You ready, man?" And this was 14 days in. And I got into the pipeline again, 14 days in.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, actually a few hours after I got into the pipeline, I received an offer like right away, a few hours. But the problem was I didn't hear from that offer for a week. So I'm like, dang. And I told Meredith and I told Jacob, like, I need to run. I don't want to walk through this process. I want to take my time. I need something right away. I've been on calls with people who's been in months, man, not to talk down on anybody, but I don't have time to waste, So I needed something to happen quick, and I needed to produce fast. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that opportunity heard back a week later. So during the meantime, I was self sourcing, definitely self sourcing, and definitely kept at the mock calls. Um, I did two self source interviews. One was for a life insurance company, and the other was for my current job that I have right now. I was cool off the life insurance, man, because during the interview, they threw so much information at me. I'm like, man,
Mm.
this is school all over again. I already dropped out of school, man. I ain't
Yeah.
doing this. I can't
You
do
don't want to
this.
go backwards.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to feel like I'm going backwards. That's bad. So I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
can't even move forward with this. So I threw that in the back, um, and did the first interview for the real estate company that I'm with right now. She said 100 people applied, only 22 met her criteria. I was one of the 22, so I was like, okay, perfect.
Nice.
Did the interview, golden. Didn't know when I would hear back from her though. So that Friday, I heard back from the pipeline opportunity, which was the barber coaching business, right? Uh, Lucrative, and everybody knew about it. Meredith was talking about like, yeah, this is an amazing offer. Like this is it right
Mm.
here. You need to bag this one. But it was for a closer position. I hadn't practiced closing at all at the time. So I didn't know. I was like, okay, do you think I should still move forward with it, even though I haven't practiced closing? She's like, yeah, still move forward with it. Just see what their requirements are for you, and see if they can still kind of get you in there and get you moving with it, man. And if you got a question for me, man, I answer your question, or I can keep
No,
it
no, no.
going.
I'm good, man. So you're going through like the barbershop offer. It didn't. So you're saying it didn't really fit like what you were looking for.
I mean, I was all in for it, man. They sent me the offer for it, connected me with the owner, and the owner was very interested in me, which blew my mind. He was like
Mm.
very interested in me, and to the point, even before our first interview, he sent me a bunch of material to study. Right, so I'm studying this stuff. I'm like, man, I got a gig. I got it. I did it.
Yeah.
Got the gig. Get to the first interview, and it was with his right hand guy, so it wasn't even with him, and all we did the whole interview was just talk and get to know each other. It wasn't no
Mm.
impeding questions or anything that you would really normally get in an interview. It wasn't none of
Expect.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just talking, getting to know each other. Like, you got any cats? It's like, yeah, I got a cat, man. Like, yeah, I got one too. I'm like, okay.
Oh, shit.
And for some reason, after that, the next day, I say next day and a half, the owner reaches out to me, says they're not interested. So yeah,
Hmm.
yep, yep.
Well, it's probably because you had a cat. They're just like, nah, we
That's what
don't
it
take cat
was, man.
peoples.
That's what it was. They got me. They got me. He was asking them questions. I'm
Well,
like, what's this about, man?
well, I mean, and I've talked about it a ton of times on here, but it's like everything happens for a reason. It's like
Absolutely.
if you would have got placed on that one, or even in the previous one, right? If you would have got placed on that first offer, for whatever reason it went through, what if it wasn't gonna end up good, right? It's probably why you didn't get it, because it wasn't going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like you went through that, you went through the barbershop one, fell through, and now you're on the offer that you're on now. So before we talk about that one, what would you say to someone that like is maybe like currently in RCA that is kind of going through the same thing? It's like they're going through the pipeline, and they're setting interviews. And we talked to I think it was Hunter about 2 or 3 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and he had gone through like six like six interviews of like, and he was in a spot too where he had some previous experience, and he was feeling on top of the world, put in the work, but for whatever reason, it was like it just wasn't like connecting. So what would you give to someone as like motivation, or something that helped you to be like, okay, didn't get that one, on to the next one? Any pain points that you found in there, or piece of advice?
Yeah, definitely. I would say this is different than like applying for a regular job. These are high ticket sales jobs. It's usually big money involved in these types of things. So it's not like going to a retail job or something small. It's not, and that's why I feel like it's big, and they really got to be picky, choosy with who they go with, and that you got to be okay
Mm.
with that, because You might not be the perfect person that they have in their mind for them, like the barbershop job, for instance. I thought I would be perfect for that, but they didn't see that. They didn't see that I was the perfect person for that, and that's okay. I
Hmm.
mean, somebody else will, right? So I say just keep looking because these are big offers. This is like dream job type of thing right here. This is dream job. So that means the dream job isn't going to be easy. You know, if you some people get
Hmm.
their first offer and that's the one for them, but some people you kind of got to go through the woods and get through the bushes a little bit to find the perfect one. And it takes everybody has their own timeline with it. So, but I say keep at it. Don't give up at all because this is dream job,
Hmm.
man.
Yeah, dude, that's a you brought up an interesting point, or a really good point that I've never really talked about on here before. But it's like, not comparing it to other types of jobs where, like you said, it's like a retail or whatever, where they're paying someone like, $10, they're, $10 an hour, $15 an hour. I guess now, a minimum wage is obviously a lot higher, but it's like the decision that a person needs to make from that and like $1 billion company or, $1 million company, as like a Walmart or stuff like that, it's a lot easier for them to make that decision
Right.
because it's a lot lower, right? But if someone, let's say a high ticket business owner, a lot of times they're investing tens of thousands of dollars in advertising,
Mhm.
and their opportunity cost of hiring someone that isn't the right fit and not going to actually perform is they actually lose a ton of money,
Right.
right? And when you really start to put down the, when we talk about the numbers of it, is, let's say a closer comes in and they don't close anything, or they're not a good culture fit, or whatever it is. Like they could literally be losing, tens of thousands of dollars
Mhm.
on betting on someone that might not be a good fit.
Right.
So I just kind of explaining like the other side of stuff. If you don't get placed on a gig, it's usually because of one of those two things, right? Number one, you're not a culture fit. Number two, you might not be, the right fit in terms of performance that they're looking for, which isn't a bad thing, right? Because there's like hundreds of offers out there that Cedric is talking about here. So,
Mhm.
so let's dive a little bit more into your current offer. So how, I guess, where did you find that offer? Like the one that you self sourced,
Mhm.
and then like what are just like kind of a not necessarily like the specifics of the offer, but I guess like how'd you get it? What were some of the things that you think went well within the interview that allowed you to land the position?
Yeah. So I found the offer on Facebook. That's honestly where I do most of my self sourcing because they posted new jobs every day. But
Mm-hmm.
um, found it on Facebook. I was one of the 100 that put in the application for the position. She narrowed it down to 22, and she interviewed all 22 of us. She loved me, man. After the first interview, she loved me. I didn't do. I did a second interview, but it was like a you got the job as her first words. Like the second interview was already confirming it. So all I did was just be me, man. I didn't have to do a mock call or anything like that. I just presented my personality to her, and that's what she fell
Oh,
in love
interesting.
with. She fell in love
Yeah.
with my personality, and I'm gonna go ahead a little bit just for a second. I sent her
Sure.
some mock calls yesterday, and me doing mock calls on RCA. She hated them, man. She hated them. She was like, "This isn't
Oh
why I
shoot.
hired you." She's like, "Your personality is why I hired you. You need to
Mm,
keep that in." So already it's a little different because my first mock calls that Meredith hated, I have my personality in it. So I'm like, okay, let me take that out a little bit. Now I got to put it
yeah.
back in again because now my boss won't be happy. It's like, what
Yeah.
y'all want me to do here? But yeah, that was just interesting for me. But she just loved my personality. She said that's my driving force, and we need that in this company. That's what she said. And I was like, okay, I'm here. You got me. You got me. And it's
Yeah.
real estate too. I already said that I wanted to do real estate after car sales, so it literally lined up perfectly. She
Hmm.
chose me out of three people. Well, me and two other people, and she said one of you will become my closer for my business.
Mm.
So I'm like, that's got to be me. I got to make it happen.
There you go, man. Can't be anyone
Can't
else.
be nobody else now.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that really just kind of brings back to you had to go through those other offers in order to find this one because it
Right.
lines up directly with what you're looking for. You want to do real estate stuff anyway, so this lines up.
Mhm.
And like it sounds like you have a good relationship so far with the business owners. That's like also another plus, and they want you
Yeah,
to be
man.
yourself. So it's like
She
you
beat me up
can't you
already.
can't beat that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so what is like, everyone always wants to know like what's like the income potential and like stuff like that. And so you're coming in as a setter, but what does it look like now? And then yeah, we can just talk about that.
Yeah, so she has a flagship offer, which is her main offer. That's for $12,000. She's creating two new offers that'll be in the equation as well. But for the flagship offer, it's 6% starting out. So that's about
Oh,
720
that's not bad.
per set that closes. And then after 90 days, if you're still a setter, you'll move up to 8%, which would be about 960 per set that closes. And that's
Hmm.
just setting. Yeah, closer. She don't want to reveal the numbers, but she said it's way higher. It's way higher. So
Yeah.
yeah, hey,
Yeah.
that's a good
I mean,
starting point.
for those, yeah, for those that are watching, I mean, it's usually like industry standard is 3% as a setter and then 10% as a closer. So if Cedric's doing 6% as a setter, like closing, I'm not saying it's directly double than that, but it could be 15%. And like at that point, if you're doing what's the price point
Um,
of the offer?
12,000.
12,000. Okay, so if we kept the numbers simple of like even if you're taking 10%, that's $1,200 per close. So at 1,500 bucks a close, my math's not perfect there, but
I mean,
you
close
get the point.
enough,
It's like
man.
if you're yeah, if you're I mean if you're spending like an hour on the call with someone and you close someone, it's like you can't really beat $1,500 an hour.
Right. Oh my
It's a
God.
pretty solid rate, and you're sitting behind a computer and you're making that kind of
You
money. It's
know what
like
I'm
it's
saying?
mind blown. You can't compare it.
Love
So
it.
what would you say to someone that that may be in that mindset of they might look at sales as kind of like a negative thing,
Mhm.
like we made the example earlier. It's like, oh, I would never get into sales because it seems sleazy and negative and whatever. What would you say to someone to kind of help them break that mindset, because what's like on the other side of that is the income potential here and you being able to provide for your family and stuff like that.
Right. Absolutely. I would say, man, there's negatives to anything that you do, any job. Um, Walmart, for instance. I don't know why I'm picking on Walmart, man, but
I know. I did too. You said it first. I was like going off that too. So like, we just don't like Walmart.
no,
If you
we
work
got a
at
thing
Walmart,
against
we're sorry,
Walmart
but
over
not
here,
really.
yo. Honestly, like there's sleaziness or shady business wherever you go. You don't have to reflect that though at all. And take it from me, the success I did at the car dealership was because of my genuity, how genuine of a person I was, and I can literally call any of my clients back from the car dealership, and they would love to hear from me. Why? Because I built a relationship with these people, and that's the main gist of it. Sales is definitely more direct than anything else. I feel like in the world, it's the most direct thing working with other people. Because I mean, you can't do that, so scanning somebody's groceries or something. Get really
Yeah.
in depth with a person. So you really get to determine that. You determine what kind of business it is. There are shady businesses out here, especially in sales. But you don't have to be a part of it, or you don't have to be like that. You don't have to do that.
Hmm.
I don't want to talk about my managers. Like I said, they might see this, but hey,
Yeah.
y'all know y'all was a little shady. Come on now, y'all know it.
Yeah.
No, there was some shady business, but you get to determine that. You don't have to be that, and you can make it what you want it to be.
Cool, man. So I'll take that one like step further too. Is so let's say someone is you got them over that hump. They're like, okay, cool. Like now I know that like sales is what I make it, and I don't have to make it this like kind of negative thing. What would you say to someone that's maybe on the fence of jumping in and working with us directly after you've gone through all of the all the training and you've done the mock calls and stuff like that? What would you say to someone that might be a little nervous to jump in and trust us as a training?
I would say if I'm talking to you and you're not in the program, that's a good way to kind of see the inside of it. Like I knew Jackson before I got into this thing. I talked to Jacob before that really just showed me what things were like on the inside. It is like a secret society club, man, but in a good
Yeah.
way though. It's producing real results for people. And hop on this YouTube channel, watch the podcast because people have done it, man. They've made it happen. They made it happen in small amounts of time. They made it happen in long amounts of time. It's really dependent on how fast you work and how hard you work. But it's doable. It's easily doable. Take it from me. But you do have to have a mindset that you can do it first, and then get to work. Just get to work, and we're all in your corner. Everybody's in your corner and very supportive and here to help everybody. Yeah, I mean, that's it, man. Work with the people that are
No,
here with you.
dude, I love it. Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna give you some time to think of because the way you usually end this, I'm just gonna give a quick outro, and then we'll end it on like one of your biggest tips that you have for someone that's either currently in the industry or not. So you'll have like 30 seconds to think about it, and then we'll come back to you. So for those of you that are listening, up to this point, I mean, we've been chatting literally for 45 minutes about remote closing and the opportunities. So you've probably at a point where you're like, okay, I want to learn a little bit more about remote closing and what it has to offer and stuff like that. So what I recommend you to do is down in the description on YouTube or on the podcast app, there's in the show notes, there's a link that's going to bring you over to another little bit of a longer training that will go more in depth about remote closing. Because here, obviously, we're talking about Cedric's success, but this will go more into like what exactly is remote closing, how did the industry come to be, how quickly it's growing. And just really just what remote closing is, how you can take advantage of the skill to, make some of the money that we're talking about on this podcast, $10, $15, $20, $30,000 a month. It's kind of, there is no cap to that. So if you want to check that out, training down in the description as well as on the show notes on the podcast app. So hopefully gave you enough time. What you got?
I would say the sky's the limit with this, man. High ticket sales is definitely I heard another person say it on their mock call. It's the golden rush right now, and there's people doing unspeakable numbers, doing this right here, man, doing what me and Aaron are doing, and we're just on the call talking. There's people doing unspeakable numbers. So the sky's the limit. Set the goal and reach the goal. Do the work to get there, and you'll get the results every single time.
Boom. All right, y'all. We're going to end it there. Dude, thank you so much for hanging out with us for the last almost hour here. It's been a lot of fun. I think a lot of really good takeaways for people that are, whether they're currently in the industry or thinking of getting into it. So for those that are hanging out, if you want to stay up to date with all the updates and all the uploads, make sure to click subscribe, the like button, leave a comment. Cedric, I'm sure he'll read through some of those and get some, get some positive, positive words from you guys.
Yeah, be nice.
But that's
to
pretty
me.
much it, guys. If you have any. What's up?
I said, be nice to me.
Oh, he said, be nice. Be nice to Cedric. I don't think I've seen like a negative comment at all on the podcast. We should be good. Especially this one because it was good. So anyway, guys, Aaron here from the Remote Closing Academy podcast. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Talk soon. Peace.